Hey guys, welcome back to Vinceville Custom. So today we're going to do a quick work in progress video of how I'm coming up with the idea of getting saw blades on this custom Gladiator statue. Now this is the Sideshow Collectibles Green Lantern, I think premium format. Somebody wanted to take this statue and turn it into Gladiator. And this is the Gladiator from Marvel Comics that fights like Daredevil, I guess kind of like that Hell's Kitchen type area. It's not the Gladiator from like, you know, the cosmic space stuff and all that. So this Gladiator has saw blades on his hands, and this is kind of what we're kind of focusing on. Now, these are actually real saw blades you get like at Home Depot and online. I ordered these off eBay once I found out the right sizes, and you know, we figured why not get real saw blades for this custom we're working on. So we found out the good scale figure plus the saw blades, and it'll work out pretty cool. So with that being said, we're kind of running into an issue, and this is kind of what the whole video is about, is getting these blades onto these arms securely without them breaking off, because you can, you know, you can put some magic sculpt and you can attach this and put some more magic sculpt and it'll stay on. There'll be no problem with that. But when you go to clean the statue, or you move it, or you put the, because these are removable too, I made each one removable. If you put this on and you push it the wrong way, you'll snap that magic sculpt right off, you know. Now there is other ways of keeping this on with like nuts and bolts, because I was all going through Home Depot and Lowe's trying to figure out what I can work on. The problem was a lot of the bolts that I was finding was, if you were to find a bolt that would work, the hole is so big on here that what it does is you can see that moves around. And if I was to put that on there and I didn't do it right, this thing would just kind of wobble around. It wouldn't spin like a blade should, it would just wobble, and we don't want it to wobble. Now the other thing too is, I found a couple like wide enough like bolt things that would work, but when you attach it, and then if I was to put magic sculpt around it, it would still wouldn't keep it on. You could still, like say you have this on here and someone grabs it by accident, or say you're dusting it with a duster and you pull this, or maybe you go behind it and you grab your shirt and you pull it, you would snap off that magic sculpt. So what I came up with is, after searching, is I found these bolts. Now these bolts are still, as you can see, it still wraps around. But when you look at the bolt here, there's a square piece. Now what I did is I marked on here like these notches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some my Dremel tools and some diamond bits and stuff, and I'm going to Dremel out notches on here. And then that square piece will lock this into place. So I'll have this locked into place, and then what I have to do is I have to saw this off, because this is going to go way too far through the hand, and we can't have it go all the way through the arm. Plus, it's a little wide too, so I'm going to have to kind of just grind this down and take my time. And then what I'll probably do is maybe I'll sand this piece down a little bit too, because I'm thinking, you know, when you look at the drawings, they just kind of like have a blade on him, and I don't know if these blades are supposed to spin on the character, but it wouldn't make sense to have a saw blade and they don't kind of spin. So I'm thinking I'm leaving in a dome, because this could kind of be like that, I guess, that mechanism that makes the thing spin. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the character that well, but this is what we're kind of coming up with. So what I'll have to do is I'm going to have to notch out on here, and I'm going to have to grind this down, but what I have to do is I have to do two, because I have to do each hand. So that's what I came up with. I'm just thinking long term, because short term, throwing something on with some glue, some Aves, magic sculpt, it looks great. But over the years, if you move, if you pack, if you decide to sell the item, and you go to pull this off, because, you know, if like say you sell it on eBay, because, you know, we all go through rough times, you know, sometimes, or we fall out of love with a character in our collection, we want to sell it off to find something new. So say this is on here, and they say the next guy goes to grab it, and they didn't realize that it's with A's, and they think they could just pull it from here. They pull this off, and then all of a sudden the arm's still there. So I'm thinking long term to keep everything secured. Now, if you were to produce this statue, and this statue was going to, you know, make 7,000 copies, 3,000 copies, 1,000 copies, you can actually, you know, do it within Aves and, you know, like, you know, sculpt, and you can have the factory design it where everything's secured with magnets, and it's different. But this is a one of a kind, so I got to come up with something on my own to work it out. Plus, it's going to be easier to grind these down and then just drill a hole and glue them, like magic sculpt them in, and I'm done. if I was to sit there with bolts and all this other type of metal stuff, and I'm grinding the metal and this and that, and trying to come up with something, it would just be way too much work. So this is where I'm at with this. I'm going to go into the garage. We're going to grind these down. I'll grind these down on a day when it's a little bit cooler. Today got a little bit warm, but I want to do it when these are going to get really hot. So this way when it's cold, these will cool down real fast. And then after that, we'll drill some holes, and then we'll start attaching this, and hopefully it all works out. Alright, so I got a chance to get into the garage and chop up these bolts on these blades. So I got the square kind of going out, and then as you can see, I chopped up the bolts as best as I could. I still got to sand some of this down over in here. It's just that they were getting really hot, so I had to kind of stop working with them. So they cooled down a little bit. So they go in there very well now, as you can see. We're looking pretty good. And then what I did is on each hand I dremeled out like the square to kind of line it up. So these pieces go in here really well now. So you can kind of see we got a nice little hand with the bolt. I'll try and show you kind of what it looks like on the statue, but they're going to kind of fall. But this one lines up pretty well here. I might have to do just a little bit more tweaking, but you can kind of see that's going to look like that. And then this one here pretty much is going to look pretty decent. Let me get this in here. So as you can see, that'll line up pretty cool like there. So I just got to do a little bit more fine tuning. We're ready to go. So can't really attach anything now. This is going to be one of those items where I have to paint this up first and then attach this and touch up. You can't really add this here now, which would be, you know, would make things easier than paint. But the problem is trying to get underneath here and masking all this off. It's too much of a pain. So it's always better to, you know, when I'm doing this stuff, to design it as I go, so this way I can attach at the end. So yeah, it may get a little bit messy when I attach it, but I think the idea of what we're going to do with this figure is we're not going to make him look super clean like a Bowen statue did with theirs. We're going to make him a little bit dirty. We're going to add some blood, and you know, we'll make him look like he's been in battle. So one of the other things too is in here, let's see if we can kind of get a little bit closer. You can kind of see I did a little bit of a notch there. So I might add a little bit more of a notching, so this way when it's glued in, it kind of holds. It doesn't actually like come out. So I'm just going to have to tweak a little bit here and there. And then that's pretty much it where we're at. So I'm going to fine tune these up. And then I'm going to make sure everything's looking pretty good here. And I probably, even though this video is going to go right to the next point of when I'm starting to paint them up and attaching, it's going to be like maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks time, because I still got to do the pants, the belt, and finish up the base. So it's going to be some time. But these things, you know, you just got to plan all this stuff out as I'm working on it. So, you know, I got to do the bolts, I got to clean this up, clean that up, and I also got to design the spikes on the shoulders too, so I can get those attached and stuff. So, still a little bit more to go, but we're moving along pretty well. Alright, so the figure we're pretty much done. The hands are painted up. I'm going to attach these now. They're a little bit tricky because you could throw some of this magic sculpt in there and you can push it in. You might put too much and you might not put enough. So what I'm going to do is kind of do like a test run to give me an idea of how much is should be in there and shouldn't, because I'm going to need to use some glue to hold this in while this sets, because I could put this in, walk away, and then don't pay attention and it could warp on me. So this is kind of a test run. So I only put in that much now, and I also made sure that this is the blade that goes into this hand, because I made sure that each one, because this one's a little bit longer than that one, but this won't fit into that one, so you got to kind of toy with it. So we're going to just push this in here and making sure everything goes in flush. So we're looking pretty good, and I'm just going to pull it out to see, and that looks like it's a good amount. It looks like that'll stay in there pretty well. So what we got to do is we got to kind of take all this off again. And just take a little bit out of it, just like this much, because I need to put some glue in there. Now I'm not really too worried about if my hands get a little bit dirty, because this item is going to be dirtied up anyway, like he's got battle damage. So this one you can kind of have a little freedom. Okay, so we throw a little bit of water in there with the magic sculpt. I want to kind of push it down. So at this point what I'm going to do is we're going to get some glue, and then we're going to throw glue around the edge. Not too much. Just enough that it'll bond there and there. So then we got to make sure we grab this piece, because this is where I sanded stuff down. We don't want that on the top. Put this back in there, make sure it's all flush. Then we push this back in. Okay, so we have some glue that came up at the top a little bit. Make sure we're at the right angle. Okay, so now I have one of these little tools here, and we're going to kind of wipe some of this glue away. Alright, so we're pushed in pretty good. Nothing's wobbling. So what we're going to do now is we get some of our Instaset. So used to doing this with one hand now. And we can just hit some Instaset in here. And looking pretty good. Just kind of make sure that we're not falling out, we're not moving. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on its side like this to cure. So I'm going to do the same thing to this one. Make sure that this is capped, and this is, because I have a habit of knocking the Instaset over all the time. So we're going to do the same thing with this one. Get about this much Magic Sculpt. Probably too much. Yeah, a little too much. We're going to kind of pull some of that out. Okay. Let's see. Still stuck there. Like I said, we grab this one here just to make sure. Kind of locked in very well. And then we push this one in as well. Didn't see any, I did see some Magic Sculpt squeeze out on the side. So that's a little too much in there, but we're going to pull it out anyway. And that looks pretty good. So we're going to take another little bit of chunk out. Say about, no, that's too much. Got about that much. And then we take all this back off again. Now, just to be on the safe side, we'll take some of this off the edge where the glue is going to touch it. Magic Sculpt's really strong. Like I always say, I like to use Magic Sculpt for stuff like this. I don't like to sculpt with it too much. But for stuff like this, Magic Sculpt really bonds pretty well. Okay, so we got that filled in. And then we take some glue around the edges. This is the gel glue. Gel glue doesn't bleed, just kind of stays like a gel, like a toothpaste. And that's why I like using it the most. And again, we look at here on the side. This is where I sanded down all the letters, so that goes on the bottom. Take this piece, we push this here. And we just push it in again. Make sure we're at a good angle with it. We got a little bit of bleed in here. Not much. And then we get the Instaset again. Now you may be asking why I'm dropping it in with the bottle. For anyone who doesn't know, these Instaset bottles, these caps have a spray, but these nozzles keep popping out non-stop. So I just got used to the point of just dabbing it in with like a dropper type thing. So it just works better. Alright, so this is kind of not turning, looking pretty good. Pushed in as far as I can get it. Alright, so I'm going to let that one sit. So I'm going to put these on the shelf, let these cure overnight. and then we'll come back and pull off the plastic. We'll see how it looks on the statues, and then after that I gotta just finish doing the statue and it's all ready to go. Okay guys, it's the next day and I did my testing and everything to make sure they go in and out of the statue and there's no problems. I made sure that they're nice and secured in there. I was looking to see if maybe I should get in there and add any like A's or anything, but I think actually we're looking pretty good. I think it gives it a nice idea that there's something in there and it's like kind of turning it in a way. You know, they go in and out of the statue, no problem. I was a little bit worried about this one to see if it was maybe too heavy, but I do remember I put a lot of magnets in here, so this one works pretty good. You just got to kind of look underneath the statue to get it into the right spot. This one works out pretty good as well. So, you know, everything's looking good. I was a little bit worried when I woke up this morning. I was like, wait a second, when it goes into the statue, this part might hit the arm. Maybe I messed up and I didn't, you know, put it in correctly. But then I remember when I was putting the metal pieces in there and I was testing to go in and out of the arms, and I was like, okay, everything works out pretty good. So the next step is going to, of course, pull off these little plastic pieces. The only reason why I left them on there is because I just didn't want to like hit myself, cut myself, or scrape anything. The next step is I got to dirty up the statue and kind of make them bloody and all that stuff. So you can pretty much see, like, that looks pretty cool now, you know, that looks really cool. It almost looks like it's spinning, but of course once you pull off the plastic you can see it's not. You know, the reason why we went this route is because like I tell people, you could go to a Home Depot, you could go to a Lowe's, an auto parts store, a hardware store, and you can utilize real tools and real stuff for your statues. Now, if a statue was mass-produced, there was no way that this would actually, you know, they would use a metal one. I mean, maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't, but they would probably do it in PVC, resin, or plastic or something, whereas this is kind of like, you know, real metal. And I think this little piece here worked out pretty good. It gives the idea that this is like a contraption on his arm that maybe it helped spin the item. Because if you have like a little tiny thing, it's like, how do they spin? So, I don't know, it kind of, you know, we kind of winged it. The client looks like he's pretty happy with it. So the next step is, like I said, we're going to pull all this stuff off. I'll have it nice and bloody. We got a custom base for him too, which is shrinking down the base because we want to focus on the character more. I got some touch-ups to do. So we'll come back with a final video. I just wanted to give you guys a, you know, a video on how I kind of came up with these saw blades, so it gives you guys an idea that if you ever wanted to do something similar, maybe you go the same route, or maybe you guys got a better idea than what I did. This is kind of what I came up with. So thanks for watching. Be sure to look out for the final video. I'll have that up soon, and we'll be back with some more videos.